send that, and we should be live. And when I sent you the link in the private chat.
Yeah, I saw that tweeted out just now.
Cool. You gonna do the hosting duties, Cruz?
I'm sorry, say that again.
You're gonna do the hosting duties. It is your channel, you know.
Yeah, I'm not much of a host, but I'll certainly.
It's your channel.
I'll do that. Yeah, I'll certainly. I'll be the host, quote unquote. I'll bring up the questions and stuff.
I guess should we wait like a second or two for the 5 people to show up?
I just tweeted it out, so we'll see if we get 6 people instead of 5.
So we'll just sit in awkward silence until we're ready to roll.
It's exciting. I'm ready. I'm ready for the year.
Are you? Well, I'm sure we'll mention this during the show, which I guess this is the show, but you did win, I think, the Clash in 2016 and possibly 2017 as well.
Yep. Yeah, it was 16 and 17, or it may have been 17 and 18. I can't remember. It was 2 years back to back.
So are you?
I think it was 16 and 17.
Are you disappointed that it's a road course, or are you fine with it?
I'm fine with it. Like it's actually kind of a pleasant change, I think. Just because, like, you look at last year's, like, it was just a damn wreck fest. Like, every single one of them are. Like, the one I won, it was a wreck fest, and Danica Patrick finished, like, 2nd or 3rd or something. It's like, because everybody else crashed out. So this one, I don't think will be as much of a wreck fest, but I can definitely see some bold moves being pulled later in the race.
What do you mean? Go ahead. Elaborate on bold. What kind of bold move can you pull? Like, I guess if there's a caution late in the race, then maybe
if there's a late restart. Yeah, a late restart, or even like, if there happens to be a battle for the lead. I think many of us expect Chase Elliott to kind of be checking out, but just in case something happens, I could see a bold move or two. But it's not going to be the wreck fest of the Clash. No, in years past. So you're not going to have 15 cars eliminated on wrecks.
So I don't know if we'll see the crazy. Well, it depends on who pits and who doesn't pit. So if we look at last year's Daytona Road Course, you get a handful of cars who pit on like lap 62, and then you get guys that stay out like Stenhouse, and you're dead 3 laps on old tires compared to new tires, and they're running you down. So I don't know if we'll see any bold, crazy. I could be wrong. Again, it depends on if there's 5 laps left, if there's 3 laps left, if 5 guys stay out, and it's kind of hard to decide how aggressive people will be. But I don't know. I think it's going to be really conservative and just lap turning.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think I think that's kind of what most clashes are. Even the one where who was it up? Jimmy Johnson got wrecked, or Paul Menard got wrecked up front by Jimmy Johnson. I was so sad. I was so sad. But that whole thing was a snooze fest until Jimmy did that.
Yeah, that was. And then they call it because of the rain, so that was really disappointing.
Yeah.
But
so I was gonna say, Andrew asked a question about how many driver pivots do you need? I want to ask my own question before we get into that. How likely do you think it is that Elliott and Hamlin aren't optimal? Like one or the other.
Together, I think it's one or the other, probably. There's definitely a chance that both are. But this is going to be, in a way, you're almost playing it like a plate race, and that place differential is going to matter a lot. But you still can squeeze in 2 guys towards the front, so it's not impossible for Elliott and Hamlin to finish 1 and 2 and both be in the optimal lineup. You know what I mean? It's just there's definitely some negative correlation there.
Yeah. So you either have Hamlin lineups, Elliott lineups. Then maybe the 2 where you get weird is if you go with Hamlin and Elliott together, which you can kind of make that work. It's probably not likely, but again, you're just trying to separate from the field with people being heavy on the people that everyone's heavy on. And then the other way is just to go no Hamlin, no Elliott. Do you think that's a question for both of you guys? Is that no Hamlin, no Elliott possible?
That's the way I've decided to go in this one. And I'm back in the 8. Yeah, I talked myself back into it, but that's the only way I could attack that contest is hoping that Elliott and Hamlin aren't optimal and that everything from the back works.
Yeah, I think that's certainly possible. I mean, Ryan Blaney isn't the greatest road course racer in the world. I mean, he's obviously won, he won that Charlotte Roval race when Jimmy wrecked Truex there at the end.
How many seconds
the inaugural
behind do you think
one.
he was? Because we he won that race.
Yeah, but
I remember watching those laps. He wasn't on their bumper. They both spun out, had to stop, and then he wins. He
was still in the top 3 at the time. Yeah. So he's respectable. So I could see him, holding off Hamlin and maybe Elliott early on. And then of course you have Keselowski up there who's really good at like Watkins Glen. And, if we consider he's maybe a little bit better at the faster road courses than like Sonoma, which is slower for Brad Keselowski, maybe you could kind of consider him starting in 4th, like as a threat to lead, but I mean, obviously Hamlin and Elliott are favored. I just think Hamlin could be under owned just because look at the top 5 in salary. Elliott, obviously people will play him. Truex is starting 18th. Harvick's starting 17th. Kyle Busch is starting 16th. They're all starting in the back and they're going to make their way forward. Like Hamlin might be the lowest owned of those 5.
That's crazy because he's starting on the inside, which if you're not starting first, probably the next best spot is to be in 3rd to go into the infield. So he could easily, by the time they hit back onto the regular part of the track, he could be in the lead. And then just checking out. I think the first 15 laps, everyone is going to take it easy. There's no way that anyone is pushing it that early.
Completely agree.
So 15 laps up front, he'll probably get most of the fast laps because everyone, like the other fast lap contenders, have got to deal with traffic aside from Elliott. But you would give probably Hamlin the edge in clean air. I mean, if you're avoiding Hamlin and he takes the lead on that first lap, you're pretty much dead, I would say.
Yeah. You're not feeling too good.
Good night. So Hamlin, you think Hamlin could have the lowest? He probably could because everyone else is just so.
Yeah, and like you can make Kyle Busch work. He's 8,900. It's not like he's 10,000, right?
Yeah. What do you think about Kurt? Like a lot of lineups, I got Kurt. Kyle and Kurt, and I'm dancing. Why not just? I mean, Kurt's cheaper, has just as much upside.
Yeah, I mean, Kurt for me is a cash game lock. Like 7,400, 15 starting position. I even kind of like maybe throwing a top 3 or 5 bet on him in this race. I'm a little torn on that one because I've been kind of debating this one because like you look at his road course / Roval races and he doesn't have any top 3s and he's competing with all the guys who since 2016 doesn't have any, but he has a 4th and he has a 5th, so like maybe a top 5 bet on him in there could work, but he's obviously half the field's gone, but it's all the shitty half of the field, so like it's what do you do, right? It's like Kurt isn't like his odds don't really improve by eliminating half the field for like a top 3 or 5. But in DraftKings format, like place differential, his $7,400 price tag, and the fact that he's just so consistent at this type of track. I mean, he has 120th place finish in his last 12 road course races, and everything else is 14th or better.
Yeah, I think today. Sorry, I think today. I think bottom line, he finishes 8th, 9th, or 7th, and if that's the case, I think he's certainly a must play, and that's something that really people aren't looking at in terms of where he is in salaries. I know a lot of guys are trying to go up high in salaries, and he just, not that he gets forgotten, but I don't think Kurt is being talked about as much as he should be talked about.
One of the things I was looking at with Kurt, because I'm just diving into stats, and I was looking at the green flag run in stage 3 of the Daytona road course race, and just trying to see who had beat. And his laps actually weren't all that great. He was overall pretty good for most of the race, but that stage 3 wasn't necessarily his best run. But overall, he was fine. But I'm just diving too deep in the stats, trying to look for any sort of weakness from anybody.
Yep.
But it's just hard at 7,400, starting 15th, to pass on Kurt Busch.
Absolutely.
Do you think anyone's I think a lot of people are going to test and practice, and just as we might know Denny Hamlin's going to be in the optimal lineup on lap 1, we'll probably have a pretty good idea of like Brad Keselowski worries me. I could see him just practicing and not pushing. Maybe he gets turns it on at the very end, but boy, I don't know if I want to take that risk.
Yeah, I mean, well, I guess I'm curious. Why would you think he would practice and not somebody like, Denny Hamlin or whoever? I mean, they all could be practicing for, the real road course race in a couple weeks.
Well, the 2-1, he mentioned that this was going to serve as a test in a video. He didn't say he was specifically going to test, but saying that they could test. I can't remember exactly his wording. De Benedetto seemed to say, we need this practice. Yeah. Because we struggled. So and you look at Keselowski, and he didn't really run that well in these Roval races last year. And it could be the switch to the who's his crew chief, Bolins now?
Yeah, I think something like that.
Maybe.
I think it is Bowman's. I don't remember.
It's been a year. I still can't remember which one's which. I wonder. It's just you have to kind of do a sliding scale of who you think is going to test more than others. I think Hamlin's more likely to race. I think Elliott's more likely to race. I think Truex is more likely to race. They really need to work on setup, and they're kind of at the top of their game right now. I think Kevin Harvick in the Busch car and the Busch race is going to race. Mm-hmm. I don't know for sure where I stand with Kyle Busch. I think he'll race, but
yeah, I think Penske as an organization is more likely to test their looking, and this is kind of answering two questions that we've had versus with people talking about the Dillon brothers getting talked about a lot and the two best plays under 7K. I don't know why Ty Dillon is being talked up as much as he is. Like, I was shocked.
Who's fucking Ty Dillon up?
Yeah.
Everyone have you? Well, I look. I was looking through videos like crazy on YouTube, and everybody's like, Ty Dillon, he's in great equipment. He's going to do good. And I'm like, he's
in great equipment. What are we talking about?
No,
yeah, I don't know why Ty Dillon is becoming chalkier as the day has gone along. I don't understand that play at all because Ty
he's never raced. I mean,
and he's starting 14th. Honestly, you know who's getting downplayed? I'm going to sound like the ridiculous fool. But the guy who's getting downplayed more than he should be relative to the people around him is Ricky Stenhouse Jr. And it's not because he's good. It's because he's not as bad as people think. Like if you compare his stats to Austin,
too much.
If you compare his stats to Austin Dillon's stats at road course races, Stenhouse is actually better than Austin Dillon and starts one spot further back. Now, I don't love Ricky Stenhouse, but like, I'm not going to put Ty Dillon at 5,500 in my lineup when I can put Ricky Stenhouse at 6,100, who starts 6 spots further back.
I completely agree. And I mean, I've listened to maybe 10 or 11 videos and podcasts today, and everybody's on the opposite side of that, to where they're like, Ty Dillon's the way to go. Ricky Stenhouse is going to wreck. Don't play him. And he
didn't wreck at all in the Daytona road course last year. He didn't make really any mistakes.
Don't get me wrong. He's not good, but he can just like ride it out to the finish. And if things happen to other people, and he passes a couple of cars.
If you don't make a mistake, and I know Stenhouse makes mistakes, but he didn't in this road course last year. You look at stage 3, and I took a 120, I can't remember what it was, a 121 second lap time or whatever number I set it at, and tried to see, how many laps did you run. And the best were, of the 19 laps, now 2 of them were pit cycles. Elliott's 17 laps were faster than that median part. Stenhouse was 15 times. 15 times he hit the mark or was better. And that's compared to like Tyler Reddick only did it 10 times. Ty Dillon only did it 10 times. Ryan Newman did it 3 times. Give you some perspective on he was it's not good like Doc just said, but I think
he's not the worst play, that is for sure.
He's better play than Ty Dillon. And I would say he's just as good of a road racer, if not better. And at least he's in equipment that's been on the track before. He's working with a team that he's worked with before. He's working with a spotter that he's worked with before. I mean, that's kind of a thing that we haven't really talked about. This is a hard track to spot for, and Dillon's going to be working with a guy he's never worked with before. I can't imagine he's going to go out there and be anywhere close to aggressive in that situation, especially since he's driving someone else's car.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm completely with you. Frank in the comments, Doc, was asking if you're doing your ownership projections on a Fantasy Lab. for tonight's
So
race?
for the 36 regular season races, I will be, but there's no way to do ownership projections for a one-off special event 21 car field on a road course. We've never had this before, right? Like there's no historical data to say what DFS players are going to do with their lineups. So no, for the special events, and I tweeted this in my thread. If you go to my Twitter, Rotodoc, and I have a pinned tweet and there's a thread there. I specifically highlight I'm doing this for the regular season cup races, the ownership and the perfect percent and all that stuff. So I'm not doing ownership projections for this race because it would just be garbage. There's no model. There's no historical data to build a model off of.
Well, I'm sure some people are doing it. I'm not. I'm sure someone is, and they're probably like, "What do you mean?"
They're just guessing. Yeah, they're just guessing.
That's the
I don't want to get like that's how I've always been since I started. Is I want to build things off of data, and so I'm removing myself from the picture as much as possible. Now, obviously, there's times you need to make calls or whatever, but I try to remove myself from like the actual data I present. That's all. I don't hand pick and choose anything in there. That's all like, this is what the statistical methods that I learned in grad school say, right? Like how to make things as accurate as possible. But you can't build an accurate model if there's no historical data to use.
Yeah, no, I mean, you would typically look at race data, correct? How much of it do you pull then? Like, how much do you weigh? Not to like peek under the hood too much, but do you look at like ownership stuff from DraftKings, or is that a smaller portion?
So like when I'm building my race prediction model, I'm basically just taking like, for the Daytona Roval, I'm going to take a lot of Roval data, and I'll also take some other road course data, Watkins Glen in Sonoma, and weight those a little bit less and try to figure out what statistically again makes the most predictive sense. And the thing is, I have all this data, but there's 40 car or 38 car fields. So I can make predictions on that to a 40 car race. Well, how do I scale that to a 21 car race? I was able to kind of do that and say, let's just look at drivers that started and finished in the top 21, right? It's not exactly going to be the best representative sample, but it's something to work with. So at least I can make race predictions, but ownership predictions, there's no historical ownership data for something like this. You know what I mean? There's absolutely no historical data on like, what is an ownership? You can download the DraftKings ownership file and use that and store that, but we don't have a small field race of a road course exhibition anywhere.
With all the negative attention that this race is getting from the fans being like, where's our plate race? I don't think NASCAR is going to want to do this again. So I don't think we're going to see another event like this unless it's something like an all-star race or something crazy like I don't think we will.
Don't try to predict what NASCAR is going to do.
That is true. And looking at ARCA races, I mean, they don't do, I don't think they do any road courses in ARCA, do they? I could be wrong. I don't believe they do.
I mean, ARCA data isn't going to help Cup data anyway. Like, there's enough historical Cup data for just like road course races in general that it's fine. We don't need to start pulling from series that doesn't have accurate loop, the ARCA loop data. Is that even accurate? Like, is there ARCA loop data? I haven't even looked. Like, I don't care. I just don't care about ARCA data to make predictions in Cup. I don't think it's relevant. I want to use Cup data to make predictions in Cup.
What are you bringing up ARCA data, Cruz?
Well, that was a question.
That was a question in the chat.
ARCA races. I wouldn't.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
Well, I don't know why.
Maybe for like the truck series and a driver who's never done anything. And even with that, the ARCA series is so poor in terms of talent.
That's like 5 cars that can race.
I'm gonna start using chump car data. It's like the old, I don't know if you've heard of those.
VIR. They do it.
I went to the one at VIR. My friend raced it.
Yeah. What's the other name for it? The 24 hours of lemons.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That was the one I went to.
I thought about taking my 2000 Mitsubishi Galant. I thought, before that I just junked it, but that would have been a fun thing to do. So let's just touch on some of these guys in the back. Who's your number one? Who do you think is going to be the most popular in the back, Doc, and then Cruz?
I think most popular. You mean starting in the back or lowest priced?
Like, I mean, a value guy. I mean, I don't think anyone's going to consider playing. Maybe someone's going to play a value guy starting in the top 10. I mean, if you want to be different, but I would imagine that the popular play is going to take some of these value guys starting closer towards the back of the field.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of just overall value, as much as I just trashed him relative to Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Austin Dillon is $400 cheaper, and he's basically projected for the same amount of points as Ricky Stenhouse Jr. So in terms of value, Dillon's the best play. If we want to go with more expensive value, Kurt Busch and Martin Truex Jr. are my best value plays.
Point per dollar wise.
Yeah, point per dollar.
What are your thoughts on Almirola?
I actually like him. I think he's not good. But he's not Austin Dillon bad. He's not Ricky Stenhouse bad. He's not, what I'm saying here. Like,
he's just too expensive probably for the comparison then.
Yeah, I mean, $6,600, and so it's just the extra price tag puts him. I mean, it sandwiches him right between, in my model, right between Dillon and Stenhouse in terms of points per dollar. But he starts dead last, so he can only go forward. Or stay the same, I guess, if he finishes last. And, he's had more top 10s than Austin Dillon and Ricky Stenhouse combined. So in road course races in the past 12. So, I think there's more potential for an Eric Almirola than a Dillon or a Stenhouse. So in terms of raw value, still Dillon's the best play, but maybe in terms of upside, Almirola is the best play. His ceiling is definitely higher than Dillon or Stenhouse.
Cruz, you didn't really comment yesterday on who you like the best of that three.
Of the back three or of the
Almirola, Stenhouse, Dillon?
Probably it would go Stenhouse, Almirola, Austin.
See, we're already doomed. Stenhouse is going to wreck now. It never works. Anytime I think we were talking about this yesterday. It was Darlington last year when the season resumed. I think Stenhouse was starting dead last or something near there, and he wrecked on the first turn. You guys remember that one?
Yeah, right off the bat.
Make it through the first turn. We could have how many times has he been optimal? I mean, I guess it doesn't matter though, because this is such a different field.
Yeah,
that it wouldn't matter if he was optimal at a road course. It wouldn't matter if he's optimal in a full field. This is such a different thing that almost none of the rules really apply. As far as I can't find a comparison in my head, because everything else that's had smaller fields like this. I mean, I guess maybe that Bristol All-Star race.
But it's still had more laps. There's you can't even use that because the Dominator was way more important than that. You had to focus on the guy who got laps in that race.
Yeah, probably thinking about it too much. So we've gone over Hamlin, Elliott. We've gone over the guys in the back. Well, should we stack from the back so that really is going towards you can stack the guys in the back if you don't play Hamlin or Elliott. And I don't think that's going to work. I think you're going to have Hamlin or Elliott. I mean, really, when we started the week thinking about this, I thought you're going to need to get guys that finish inside the top 7. Mm-hmm. You guys disagree with that?
Yeah, I mean, finishing position is still going to matter, right? You're going to need guys that finish up front. And so I see somebody, and I'm kind of tagging on to a question I see here in chat. How strong a play is Truex without the hog points? He's still a really good play. I mean, he's my top projected play on the site.
I think he's
in terms of DraftKings points. So you're going to need the highest scoring driver, period, right? The highest scoring driver is going to be in the winning lineup. I don't care what his salary is. Truex is still a good play. And so these guys in the back are valuable, but, I still think you need, in a good amount of lineups, at least somebody starting in the front will probably finish in the front and pull off a large chunk of points as well. So it's not just a pure place differential play. You can throw in the Daytona 500, 6 drivers starting 28th or worse, and that'll be the optimal lineup sometimes. I don't think that's going to happen here.
I think the thing with Truex is, I mean, you can even maybe make this argument for Byron too, but you look at Truex, lap 40 of the Daytona road course, he starts 25th. Elliott's in first. 5 laps later, and this is before cycling really takes place, he's in 6th place. He passes 19 cars in 7 laps. And everyone's trying to race in that event. Mm-hmm. Let's say lap 5, what place is Truex in? Cruz, you go first. Lap 5. Where is Truex?
I think he's in 7th.
What do you think, Doc?
7th sounds about right. I'm gonna go 7th also. I can't give a different answer. I think that's pretty good.
Yeah. I'm going 5. I'll go top 5. I'll be real aggressive. 5 laps in. I think he's a good road course racer. We know this. The car looked like it was set up pretty well. Mm-hmm. I don't know. James Davison's from Australia. Does he have a road course background? I think he's from Australia, right? He has an accent.
Yeah. James Davison raced he raced Indy Lights or whatever it was called.
Sorry. The crew chief for what's that guy's name? James.
I think he did like supercars or touring cars or something with the Australian tour.
James Small,
yeah. So I'm wondering if he has a little bit of an edge when it comes to road course racing. Something to throw out there.
Yeah, maybe.
Don't know. Well, obviously he looked pretty good last year.
Truex has been good with whatever crew chief, at road courses.
Change to the rear. Wait, what?
Is it? That's what.
Did that just happen? Hold on.
Oh, I gotta look. That's what abnormally.
Oh, cheats.
He's cheating on an X.
Yep. Chase Elliott will start from the rear for unapproved adjustments.
I think that's. I didn't want to play Chase.
Okay, so now what happened? Now what do we do?
This is why we're live. This is perfect. So, I don't think Chase is optimal anymore.
We just said that Truex in 5 laps can get to the top 7th place, right?
Yeah, but if Truex is doing that, I'm under the assumption that Chase would be at the front. And so if Truex can fly through the field that fast, Truex should have a fast lap in there, and Truex should be able to lead if that's the case. Because
the other issue is, Chase Elliott's starting position is still 7th or whatever, right? His official starting position 7th. So now he's got to go through the whole field. He's got Truex in front of him. He's got Harvick in front of him. He's got Kyle Busch in front of him. He's got Logano, Keselowski, Blaney, Kurt Busch in front of him. One guy we've been sleeping on is William Byron. He's been pretty good at these races. So he's got a lot of good people. I don't think he's a lock to win. Will 2nd or 3rd now get him in the winning lineup? I don't know.
Because I had Chase for, I had him for 17 laps led and 11 fast laps. And
what laps did you have him leading? You have him marked?
I'm gonna rerun my model right now with his new air quoting him in 21st starting position and see how that changes things in my model.
I think he's gonna be fine. I thought Hamlin was gonna lead stage 1 anyway. I thought those points would go to Hamlin. I don't really believe that interferes too much with Elliott. By the 15 competition. Look, here's the other thing. He's clearly trying to cheat as much as possible. Right? If the car did not pass, they're obviously trying to win. They're all in. No, you don't get busted. Whoever gets busted in an exhibition? Well, the guy that's desperate or really, really wants to win and has the car pushed towards the limit. So, he started from the back at Phoenix. I know Phoenix is a different story, but it just... the whole momentum, the narrative, I think he'll get to the front relatively quickly. It doesn't really change me. If anything, I might bump my Hamlin ownership up a little bit because I think he's really protected now, or possibly Blaney. Because one of the things I had to worry about with Hamlin was, all right, what if Elliott gets up there and takes the lead early? That's not going to happen. So,
and that's all I projected for was Hamlin not leading in the beginning and Chase taking over early before the end of the first stage.
All right, let's see what my model says. I'm gonna run it right now, and we'll have results in just a few minutes.
So this is going to tell us where he's going to finish, probably, or
just how it's. Yeah, it'll tell him his new projected finishing position. I think my model has him around. As the highest finisher, it had Chase Elliott as
number 1.
Yeah, number 1 as 3.9 average finish. Now, of course, that's average. So that it's going to be dragged down by, like bad finishes or he crashes out or something. But that means like his median finish is probably around just under 3.0. I would have to pull out the projection for that. But like his average was 3.9. Let's see what his new average finish is projected to be. It's just going to take me a couple minutes.
Stage 2, he restarts in 19th place last year, the Daytona Road Course. And that's laps, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 8 laps later, he's in 3rd place. And he's basically going to start in the exact same spot, pretty much facing similar drivers. Get to 3rd place. I think he'll be fine.
Yeah, I am curious though how much it's going to change his projection here. I'm very curious.
I'm curious how much I have him with 8 less DraftKings points now.
Because he's going to lose some fast laps.
Yeah,
the good news is it doesn't really change, hog points or dominator points or whatever you want to call them, because he was projected for an average of let's see, just under 6 laps led and about 4 fastest laps, which is going to get you, 1.5 plus 2, like 3.5 points. So, he's going to lose maybe at most 3 points off that projection just from that. But that's at most. So it doesn't really change that part.
He's still my highest projected driver. I guess it didn't change as much as I thought it would.
He drops down right almost exactly even with no, actually he drops down almost exactly right in between Truex and Harvick, but closer to Harvick for me on his projected finishing position.
But the problem with that is his price tag then.
Yeah, exactly. And
so now it really is going to, because that 10,500 is usually nothing, but when you've got these other guys with almost points in the bank with the place differential, and the price tags are lower. Yeah. So if we were all worried about hey, how do you make yourself different? It seems like Elliott's going to be the best way if you really want to swerve away from people.
Yeah.
Might not be smart though. The model says it's not that smart.
Yeah, I've got Truex 1 now, and Harvick and Elliott basically tied for 2nd in average finishing position. Now the difference is Elliott's going to be scored from 7th, and Harvick's going to be scored from whatever he is. Let me flip over here, 17th, and Elliott costs $1,300 more.
Yeah.
So you got to reduce that Elliott exposure. You just have to.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. Even if he wins the race, he's probably the only driver that we can say this. Probably is the only driver that can win this race and not be optimal.
I agree.
I just don't see how Hamlin wins it and doesn't pile up points. That would be a really, really weird situation where he just kind of sits there and then finally makes a move at the end. Let's see how that would happen.
Yeah.
What do you think this does for Blaney then? Because it 2 things. One, you're opening up money in lineups if you're going away from Elliott. And now Blaney just has less of a threat breathing down his neck, and he doesn't need to lead a lot at 8,600. I don't know.
If anything, maybe give Blaney, 4 more laps led, but I still see Hamlin taking over until Truex and Chase and Harvick can get up there, and Kyle. Until the guys in the back get up there, it should be the Hamlin show. And Pete, we were just discussing what to do with Hamlin. If you want to go back a few minutes to see how he's projected now.
Yeah, long story short, with Elliott, it seems like the consensus is, you got to go a little bit lower. Now, if you want to be crazy and try to separate,
I wouldn't go a ton lower. I actually just tweeted out. I said I would absolutely lower my Chase exposure, but not drastically. You know what I mean? Definitely got to lower it because now his projected value is less. Period. But you don't have to go crazy and lower him a ton.
Let's see.
It's
We haven't
straight
talked
up
about Logano.
Holy Trinity.
What do you think about Logano, Doc? He seems to be another one of those guys that kind of fits into these lineups, especially if you're going with Kurt Busch. And now, especially if you're taking Chase Elliott out of some of them.
Yeah, I think Logano has a lot of tournament value. I don't think I'd use him in cash. I mean, Kurt Busch is right there, and you got all these guys starting in the back. And I will say it does take Chase Elliott probably out of my cash lineup. I actually did have Chase in my cash lineup. I had a really nice lineup that I liked for cash games that I used most of the salary and mostly guys starting in the back plus Chase. So I will need to tinker with that, but I do like Logano in tournaments and maybe even more now. His points per salary and my projection isn't like amazing. It's kind of right in the middle of the field, but I see so much exposure to these guys starting further back that this middle range is going to go undervalued, I think.
Yeah, that's one of my worries I think the thing that could kill me is William Byron.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not completely worried about Eric Jones or Matt DiBenedetto, but William Byron is a worry because he is just cheap enough and he is good enough of a race car driver. Brad Keselowski could really kill me.
I will say Eric Jones has some good results at these races. And I'm not just talking like one example here. I'm pulling up his data.
The 2018 Sonoma, I just really remember this. He was terrible all weekend. He was off the track the entire time. And then the race happens and he gets a top 10. Like, oh, well, he just got lucky, stage breaking. Yeah. But then it was top 10, top 10, top 10. And he was just rolling them off like nothing. But how much of that is JGR equipment too?
Well, yeah, exactly. I guess it's the equipment though. I feel it doesn't matter as much at road courses. I mean, like, look, you could see like AJ Allmendinger could win in a JTG Doherty car or whatever. You know what I mean?
Getting top 10s.
There's definitely a little bit of equalizing in terms of equipment at road courses, and obviously a lot at super speedways. But like if you remove Eric Jones, like obviously every driver DNFs, it happens. But if you look at the races where he didn't have major issues, he has every single finish inside the top 11, except one was a 25th place finish. And that was his very first road course race of his career in Cup.
Yeah. So Jones could be, that is an interesting way to swerve then.
Yeah. And I think people will knock him because of his drop in equipment. I think this is an opportunity here.
Because at that price, he really doesn't have to go that much forward and really just needs other people in that range not really to knock it out of the park. And there's not really a lot of like if Austin Dillon and Stenhouse or Almirola don't really do much, or even if one does, but you have that guy in your lineup anyway. So really you're just saying like two of these cheap guys really just are themselves, then Jones can work.
Yeah.
I don't really want.
Okay, here's a question for you too, not from the chat, but from me kind of pondering. Say if you're not playing Chase and you have to pay up for people, and obviously we just talked about how Jones would be a lower owned play that doesn't have as much attention to it. Say if you can't afford him, how bad of a play is Custer? Like I was looking at his Roval race last year, and obviously it kind of started in the rain, but later once that track was dry, he wasn't horrible. He wasn't the worst car in that Roval race. And $5,800, if you're needing it, like if you have a chalk lineup and you need, a place to get different, I don't
look at that optimal lineup. Yuck.
I love Cole Custer as a tournament play. I mean, obviously there's the safe plays of those guys, whatever, Austin Dillon and Stenhouse and Almirola. But like, you want to get crazy, throw Cole Custer in a lineup, because you know what that lets you do? You can throw in Martin Truex Jr. and Chase Elliott into a lineup. And then you can throw Cole Custer down at $5,800, and you still got an average of $7,900 per driver, which will let you, get somebody like maybe a Kurt Busch, and then you've got even more than $7,900 average for two drivers left.
Custer will definitely get you very low ownership, or at least separate from the field.
He's obviously never going to be in cash games, but in tournament formats, especially top-heavy tournament formats, I kind of like it.
He's in the right spot on a restart, and
and like look at his stats. He finished 9th and 4th, I think it was, an average green flag speed in the two road course races he's participated in. Yeah, he had a 22nd place finish in one of them, but I mean, he was pretty good. So, I don't think he's terrible. I don't think he's amazing. Sorry, I think it was a fourth place. I confused my numbers. A fourth place average green flag speed and finished 9th or something like that. But he hasn't been terrible at these races, and he ran as high as the top 5 or 6 at different points.
All right, so as we're trying to hype up this Custer train, before the last caution at last year's Daytona Road Course, he was in 16th place, and he decides to pit. He gets tires, and he just doesn't have a good restart. Yeah. He may have damage or something, so he restarts 21st, and he ends up finishing 22nd. But he was in 16th before that caution. That thing runs out. He finishes 16th, and we're looking at a Cole Custer. He's finished, 16th, and whatever he did at the Roval, 9th. Yeah. If we had those two numbers, it would change
that bad
completely. So that 22nd it's kind of misleading.
I mean, it's not amazing, but
no,
he showed he can put his car in the top 10 at these types of tracks as upside.
Yeah, I mean, it's not an amazing play, but I said yesterday in my video that I really like Cole Custer. If you like your lineup and you have chalk plays, I think Custer is the place to go.
What about Custer or Buescher?
But Buescher's gonna have more ownership. Like if you're trying to get on an island, because I still don't think that the big tournament goes to one driver or one DFS player. I think it still splits. And if that's the case, I mean, I think you got to play Custer if you're trying to get on an island.
I agree with that. Buescher and Custer are $100 apart. They start 5 places apart, which is a little bit, but my projection for them still. I actually project Cole Custer for more DraftKings points than Chris Buescher because I project him to finish higher than Chris Buescher. So that gives Cole Custer actually a higher points per salary than Buescher in my projections. Now, there's no clear one is better than the other, but if Buescher is going to be higher owned and they're basically a coin flip, I would go with Cole Custer instead of the higher owned driver. I'd go with the lower owned driver.
Yeah, I guess that's probably what it all boils down to is, I mean, if you're saying which one's safer, then you really shouldn't be playing either one. You're making a major mistake. So there's a question about Elliott. Elliott's got to win. We all agree that. The only way Elliott is optimal is he wins the race.
Yeah.
And leads quite a few laps.
Even if he finishes second, Harvick, Kyle Busch, Kurt Busch, Martin Truex Jr., they're going to score plenty of points too. And they're so much cheaper that I just don't. And we even said he can win and maybe not even end up in the optimal lineup. As crazy as that sounds.
Yeah, I mean, I think Elliott can be in the winning lineup if he finishes second or maybe third. It just depends on how other things shake out. Mm-hmm. But I mean, he definitely absolutely has to finish in the top 3. It's just like let's say he finishes third. That's was it 41? The scoring change has me thrown off now. I can't remember the scoring system, but it's it used to be 41 points for finishing position. Now I think it's 40 or 39 for finishing position if he finishes third. And then he'll get a handful of 4 place differential points that puts him in the low 40s.
41. Third game 41.
Yeah. That puts him in the low 40s. He picks up a couple fastest laps. He's maybe in the mid 40s. That could squeeze him in the winning lineup. But I think a top 2 is absolutely essential. A third could, if depending on how other things shake out with other drivers.
I really think that Truex and Harvick are going to get up front and get that top 5 finish. And that really is going to put a lot of pressure on Elliott
to win.
Mm-hmm. It's just the pricing, it would squeeze him out. And if Kurt, well, maybe not Kurt Busch because he's cheap enough. But if Kyle Busch squeezes up there too, then there's just no way. It almost seems like it's more what do the other guys do? Yeah,
I mean, the scenario I'm talking is if Chase finishes third and Blaney or Hamlin wins and Keselowski finishes second, you know what I mean? 2 guys sitting up at the front also finish 1, 2. Maybe Elliott finishing third and then 3 back markers moving up could make an optimal lineup. But I mean, he probably has to win, maybe finish second. And possibly finish third, but that's much of a long shot.
He needed a good race, at the start of this week. Now he needs, a great race to just show up and really whoop on him.
Does he really? Because if they're not going to be trying that hard. He obviously seems like he's going to be trying hard. Someone wrote there was a mechanical issue with the car, which I don't know. Does that mean it was an accident, or are they really pushing the car? Either way, I think he can get to the front pretty quickly. I really do. Especially if some of these guys are just kind of testing and practicing. And let's say that they're not going to test or practice the entire race. If they're going to, it will be the first 15 laps. And that's when he'll just be able to just walk by people.
Yep.
That's the bet should be online, is like how quickly does it take him to get up?
At what lap is he back and forth?
Well, you know what they're going to do with the broadcast. They're going to put the camera. They always do this when one of those guys gets sent to the back. They have a really fast car. They would always do this with Truex in the past. How long is it going to take Truex to get back in the top 5?
Yeah.
If there's a huge surprise tonight, what do y'all think it'll be? Like in terms of a driver doing really well or doing really terribly, not just based on like having a wreck, but like actually just being bad, or a driver way outperforming what you think. If you had to give one prediction.
You want to go first?
Oh, throws it back to me, or you throwing it to Pierce?
I'll throw it to Pierce.
The thing I'm staring at is Alex Bowman, who I really have but he's fine. He's a fine road course racer. He's not terrible. And last year, he wrecked early in the race, so that kind of just rode off most of the race for him. He's going to be in the 48 car, which was really good last year at this track. If he just has a little bit better of a start than Ryan Blaney and then just runs away with this race in a snooze fest, I think that would be kind of shocking to see. The 48 car couldn't win at all under Jimmy Johnson, then Bowman in his first time in it goes out and wins.
Yeah.
I got to lean to Ty Dillon actually racing, because I don't see him running fast. And if he goes out there and if he finishes like 9th or something, I mean, that's way better than what I think he should finish at.
Well, we should mention that it is Michael Jordan's team, and you could see Michael Jordan telling him to go out there and race the car.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's the stupidest narrative ever, so please don't listen to that and say, oh, well, Michael Jordan's telling Ty Dillon to go out there and win this race. But I don't know. I don't know what they're doing with that team. We don't know how good the cars are. We don't know anything about that team. I think, is the crew chief Michael Wheeler?
Yeah, Michael Wheeler, former Denny Hamlin crew chief.
Yeah, but has he even been a crew chief in this specific package? Because he got moved out and was like a.
That's a good question. When was the last time he crew chiefed? That's what I'm trying to look up now. So
if we're talking about a guy has to set, which is really ridiculous, we're looking up Ty Dillon's
his crew
chief. But I think
So in 19, he was with Levine Family Racing.
Was he a crew chief or was he
as crew chief? Be crew chief in 2019, and then in 2020 he was promoted to competition director.
So that was De Benedetto's year, right? Yeah.
19, it was De Benedetto. 20, he was competition director for Bell's run.
All right. So he's got some idea what to do, but I can't believe we're still talking about that.
He's a Neanderthal. He understands what to do, but I don't know. I don't see that team wanting to go out. It doesn't make logical sense for them to be like, okay, learn nothing and just push it as far as you can. Ty.
All right, let's wrap it up. What will be? Let's pick race winners. I'll go first. I'll go boring, and I'm going to say, well, I'll go Martin Truex Jr. Martin Truex Jr. is going to be my race winner. Who you got winning, Cruz?
Can I pick the same guy as you, or do I got to be different? I like Truex. If it's not Truex, it's Chase.
Okay. You gonna go off the wall, Doc?
No, I'm taking Chase Elliott. I still think he's gonna win. I still think he's that. Look at I mean, just look at the stats. It's not even close when you look at fastest laps led, driver rating, average green flag speed. It's Truex, Elliott, it's Elliott, Truex, and everybody else.
Remember, Chase Elliott drove into the wall at the Roval, and then 10 laps later, he was back in the lead.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure he will be fine. And
of course, I'm the guy that, says lower your Chase Elliott exposure, but I still think he's going to win.
It's like I was going to win. Yeah.
It's going to make everybody so mad. This is why I'm back in the game doing this, to make everybody mad.
Yeah.
Oh, they're going to come at you with the mean tweets.
The pitchforks, yes.
That's just all there is. That's all happens.
Just blame me. You said it on my channel, so I can take the blame this time around. Don't worry about
There
it.
you go. It's all your fault, Brandon.
Yeah, thank you for joining us. I do appreciate it because we got
Yeah, thank you for having me.
To see this again. So yeah, thanks for joining.
Can I throw my stuff out there real quick?
Of course, I was going to go, but you're wanting to get out there, so go ahead. FantasyLabs.com/pricing-rotodoc. That's where you can sign up for my stuff. We got projections for every race this year for Cup. I'm going to be doing Xfinity and truck projections. I think we're going to have them probably around a month from now. Same exact machine learning model stuff. And as far as Cup goes, we have ownership projections, optimal lineup percent projections, which is new for me this year. So I'm running 50,000 simulations of the race and says, well, Chase Elliott ends up in the optimal lineup 33% of the time, and he's 25% projected ownership. He's a good play. That kind of stuff. So again, fantasylabs.com/pricing-rotodoc.
Or just follow him on Twitter at
and I'll be tweeting it
probably
out.
Everybody watching this is already following you anyway, but
Fair enough.
follow your tweets and profiles would probably be the easiest way to get there.
Yeah, but thanks for having me, guys. I'm looking forward to this.
It's awesome.
It's gonna be a good year.
Yeah, I'm happy to have you. Obviously, you can find Pierce at Race for the Prize, and you can find me on Twitter, Brandon Cruz DFS. You're already on the YouTube channel, and same thing on Patreon. Thanks for joining us, guys, and we'll see you next time.
Good luck, everybody.
Have a good one, y'all.
Guys.